France's economic struggles, the $75 million weekly loss, and its plea to Burkina Faso. In a world of shifting power dynamics and evolving policies, one story stands out as both revealing and consequential. France, one of the largest economies in Europe, has reportedly been losing $75 million each week. The source of this decline? A breakdown in economic relationships with a former colony, Burkina Faso. This story is about more than just numbers. It's about geopolitics, history, and the economic empowerment of nations long considered secondary players in global trade. Today, we'll break down this surprising scenario and what it means for France, Burkina Faso, and the world at large. The relationship between France and Burkina Faso is deeply rooted in colonial history. For decades, Burkina Faso was part of France's colonial empire, supplying raw materials such as gold and cotton, which fueled European economic growth. Even after decolonization, France remained an influential actor in the country, both politically and economically. Through trade agreements, investments, and resource extraction, France benefited immensely from its ties to Burkina Faso. In exchange, Burkina Faso gained limited infrastructure development and nominal trade benefits. While portrayed as a partnership, the relationship was largely tilted in France's favor, with Burkina Faso remaining dependent on outside players for economic stability. But in recent years, cracks have appeared in this arrangement. Under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has been charting a different course, a path defined by economic independence and self-assertion. This shift has not only disrupted decades of economic ties, but has placed France in an increasingly vulnerable position. The impact of deteriorating relations with Burkina Faso is starkly evident in France's economic data. The nation is reportedly losing $75 million per week, a staggering figure that underscores the importance of its trade ties with the African nation. But how exactly is this loss manifesting? First, key industries in France are being hit hard by reduced access to Burkina Faso's strategic resources. Gold and cotton are primary exports from Burkina Faso, and interruptions in their supply chain have created negative ripples throughout France's manufacturing and industrial sectors. Second, direct investments and project contracts that French companies once enjoyed in Burkina Faso are dwindling. Major French corporations, including those in construction and energy, have seen their operations scale back due to Burkina Faso's new policies favoring local companies and alternative global partners. These factors, combined with a broader decline in West African markets where France once had influence, have contributed to the estimated $75 million weekly loss, an economic wound that's proving difficult to heal. At the heart of Burkina Faso's pivot lies Ibrahim Traoré, its young and ambitious leader. Traoré has emerged as a prominent advocate for African self-reliance, challenging the status quo of dependency on former colonial powers. His administration has introduced sweeping measures aimed at reclaiming economic autonomy. One of the significant changes has been the nationalization of certain industries. Where French corporations once dominated, Burkina Faso now prioritizes local businesses and partnerships with non-traditional players such as Russia and China. This shift reflects a broader vision to diversify the country's economy and reduce reliance on France and other Western nations. Another cornerstone of Traoré's leadership has been renegotiating resource access. Decisions to scale back French companies' control over mining and agriculture sectors have been particularly impactful. These changes have allowed Burkina Faso to channel more revenue toward local development initiatives, boosting infrastructure and public services. While such policies have undoubtedly disrupted business as usual for France, they have also reflected a growing trend across Africa, a trend of leaders asserting sovereignty over their economies and resources. For Burkina Faso, these steps toward greater independence aren't without risk, but they hold the promise of long-term gains. Traoré's administration has focused on building a robust local economy, emphasizing the development of small and medium enterprises, SMEs. By prioritizing local businesses, the government aims to increase employment and domestic revenue streams. Additionally, Burkina Faso's shift in foreign partnerships offers new opportunities. Partnerships with emerging global powers such as China and Russia have opened up fresh avenues for trade and investment. Unlike their historically imbalanced relationship with France, these new arrangements often come with fewer strings attached, giving Burkina Faso more control over its economic future. However, challenges remain. Transitioning away from an established trade partner like France is no small task. The success of Burkina Faso's economic ambitions will depend on how sustainable these policies prove to be in the face of global economic fluctuations and internal resource management. Burkina Faso's actions have implications far beyond its borders. By standing up to a former colonial power like France, the country has set an example for other African nations. Leaders across the continent are paying attention. In regions where similar dependencies on Europe persist, debates about economic independence and renegotiation of trade agreements are growing louder. For France, the situation is emblematic of a broader challenge: the erosion of its influence in its former colonies. Across West Africa, countries are steadily moving away from Francophone economic and political systems. Together, these trends signal a significant shift in the regional balance of power. On the global stage, this episode highlights a larger conversation about resource control and trade equity. As nations like Burkina Faso assert greater autonomy, the structure of international trade is slowly but surely being recalibrated. Established powers like France must now grapple with competition from emerging players and reductions in their sphere of influence. While these high-level dynamics are fascinating, they ultimately affect ordinary people, both in France and Burkina Faso. In France, the decline in trade and investment opportunities has created challenges for industries reliant on West African resources. Workers in the affected sectors bear the brunt of these economic losses, with potential job cuts and wage stagnation. In Burkina Faso, the picture is more optimistic, though challenges persist. Reduced French dominance presents a chance for local industries to thrive, creating jobs and fostering economic resilience. However, these benefits are not guaranteed. If resource management and governance falter, the dream of economic empowerment could quickly unravel. Faced with mounting economic losses, France has not remained idle. Officials have reportedly reached out to Traoré's administration, seeking ways to restore economic cooperation. These diplomatic overtures signal a degree of desperation among French policymakers who recognize Burkina Faso's strategic importance. However, the terms of such a reconciliation remain unclear. Would France be willing to renegotiate trade deals to make them more equitable? Could it agree to find common ground on resource control and local investment? These questions are critical as the two nations navigate this unfolding chapter. For Burkina Faso, the journey toward economic self-reliance offers insights for other nations in similar positions. The country's decision to take control of its resources and redefine its partnerships is a bold step toward breaking free from the long shadow of colonial economics. Yet it also highlights the importance of careful planning and execution. Independence needs to be accompanied by sound governance, transparency, and diversification. This story serves as a reminder that economic empowerment is as much about what a country gains domestically as it is about the partnerships it builds internationally. By fostering new relationships and investing in local development, nations can move toward a sustainable future. France's $75 million weekly loss is just one measure of how global trade dynamics are shifting. As countries like Burkina Faso assert their autonomy, traditional powers like France are forced to confront changing realities. This tug-of-war between old hierarchies and new ambitions reshapes not only regional dynamics, but also the global trade system. These changes challenge long-standing assumptions about who controls global resources and how they are distributed. They may open the door to a more multipolar world economy, where smaller nations have a greater say in steering economic policies and partnerships. The story of France and Burkina Faso is about so much more than economic losses or changes in leadership. It's about control, sovereignty, and the power to shape one's destiny. This is a story with lessons for all of us, whether we are policymakers, business leaders, or just interested observers of the global economy. As Burkina Faso navigates its path toward independence, it offers a glimpse into what's possible when nations rethink their place in the world. For France, this moment is a challenge to adapt. For the global community, it's a chance to reconsider how resources and wealth are shared in a rapidly changing economic landscape. This isn't just Burkina Faso's story or France's challenge. It's a conversation about fairness, resilience, and the balance of power in a globalized world.